Jungkook had always been cold, not the kind of cold that comes from indifference, but the deliberate distance of a man who had no time for distraction. His reputation as the youngest CEO of Jian Industries was built on efficiency, control, and a strictly professional demeanor. He wasn't cruel, but he wasn't warm either. That all changed the moment she walked into his office. Her name was Wai, and the new executive assistant, and the second she entered the room, Jacob felt something in his perfectly composed world crack. Wai stood before his desk, her hands clutching her resume nervously as she spoke, explaining her qualification. Jungkook, however, couldn't focus on a single word she said. All he could think about was the way her eyes seemed to sparkle when she talked, the soft, nervous curve of her lips. It was captivating. He had never felt this before. This instant pull towards someone. Mr. Jan, she said, tilting her head when she noticed his silence. Jungkook blinked, realizing he had finished staring. You are hired, he said abruptly, cutting her off mid-sentence. Start tomorrow. She blinked in surprise, but tomorrow, he repeated firmly, dismissing her as if it were nothing but internally. He wasn't already reeling from the effect she had on him. Ryan had been working for him for 2 weeks, and it was torture. Every morning she would walk into his office with that polite smile, greet him, and then proceed to go about her work as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Meanwhile, Jungkook could barely focus on his meeting, his thought constantly drifting toward her. Mr. Yan, these are the reports. Mr. Jan, these are the reports for the board meeting. Ryan said, walking into his office one morning. She placed the files on his desk, her fingers brushing lightly against the surface, and Jackson's breath caught in his throat. He cleared his throat, using a straightener. Thank you, he said, his voice cold and formal, trying to mask the tension building inside him. Is there anything else you need? She asked, her tone professional. Yes, you. His thought betrayed him. Instead, he shook his head. No, that will be all. As he turned to leave, Jacob's eyes followed her. He cleaned his face under the desk. This was getting out of control. It was late one night, and the office was mostly empty. Jungkook stayed behind to finish a few reports, but when he heard a noise from the break room, he went to check. There she was, Ryan, sitting alone, sipping on a cup of coffee. Ryan, he called, his voice softer than usual. She looked up, startled. Oh, Mr. John, I didn't think anyone else was still here. I could say the same. He stepped closer, leaning against the counter. What are you still doing here? She stopped, looking down at her cup. Just finishing up some work. It has been a long day. Jungkook watched her closely, the flickering lights casting soft shadows over her face. For a moment, he let his guard down. You work hard. Ryan blinked in surprise at the compliment. Thank you. Silence hung between them, thick with unspoken words. Jungkook wanted to say something, anything to break the tension, but instead he just stared at her, feeling the pull toward her intensify. His mind raced with thoughts he should not be having. I should get back, Ryan finally said, standing up and breaking the spell. Good night, Mr. Jen. As she walked past him, their arms brushed, and Jungkook swore he felt a jolt run through him. He stood there long after she left, his mind in chaos. Days turned to weeks, and the tension between them only grew. Jungkook couldn't ignore the way his heart raced whenever she was near. He found himself watching her more often, his cold exterior cranking little by little, but he wasn't the only one who noticed. One afternoon, he saw her laughing with one of the marketing directors, a casual hand on her arm. Jungkook's jaw clenched so slightly he thought his teeth might crack. He called her into his office immediately after. Ryan, he said the moment she stepped inside, closed the door. She looked confused but did as he asked, is something wrong? He stood behind his desk, face clenched. What was that? What was what? She asked, genuinely puzzled. With him, you were laughing with him. Her brows furrowed. You mean Mark? We were just talking about work. I don't care. Junko stopped. Snapped, the word coming out harsher than intended. I don't want to see you getting too close to anyone in this office. Once I widened and saw, "Excuse me, why do you care?" Jungkook opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Why did he care? The answer was obvious, but admitting it out loud was something he wasn't ready for. Instead, he just stared at her, his chest rising and falling with the intensity of his emotions. "Yeah, my employee," finally said, his voice low and I don't like it. Wayne looked at him, her expression torn between confusion and frustration. "Mr. Young, with all due respect, I think you are overreacting." Jacob felt a surge of anger and jealousy. He crossed the room in three long strides, standing inches away from her now. "Maybe I am," he admitted, his voice rough, "but I don't care. I don't like seeing you with anyone else." Her breath held at the proximity, and for a moment they stood there, neither of them saying a word. The air between them packed with electricity. The unspoken tension finally coming to a head. "Why do you care so much?" Ryan asked, her voice barely a whisper now. Jungkook didn't answer with one. Instead, he closed the distance between them, his lips pressing onto hers with an intensity that took her breath away. She gasped, but her hand instinctively reached up to give his shirt, pulling him closer. And filled with all the emotions he had been holding back for weeks, when they finally pulled away, both of them were breathing heavily, their foreheads resting against each other. "I care because I want you," Jungkook finally admitted, his voice harsh. "I want you more than I have ever wanted anything in my life." I stared up at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Jungkook, say you feel the same," he whispered, his hand cupping her face gently. "Now, please." Her eyes softened and she nodded. "I do." Months passed and their relationship blossomed in secret. Jungkook had never been happier, but the secrecy ate away at him. He didn't want to hide anymore. He wanted Ryan completely public and forever. One evening, he took her out to a quiet, intimate dinner. She smiled across the table at him, completely unaware of what was coming. As dessert was being served, Jungkook couldn't wait any longer. Stood up, walked around the table, and knelt before her. Ryan's eyes widened. "Jungkook, what are you?" "Ryan," he said, his voice filled with an emotion she had never heard from him before. "I have never been good at this, at showing my feelings, but you have changed that. You have changed me." Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized what was happening. "I love you," Jungkook continued, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket and opening it to reveal a ring. "And I don't want to hide anymore. Marry me." Ryan's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes filled with disbelief and happiness. "Jungkook, say yes," he whispered, his eyes bleeding. "Please." With a tearful smile, he nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." Jungkook's heart soared as he slid the ring onto her finger, standing up to kiss her again, this time filled with love and promise. He held her close, never wanted to let go. Finally, after months of tension, jealousy, and longing, Jungkook had found his promise with her.